In this video we will introduce the History of Europe app, which is one of the two demos of the FP7 funded EU project CUbRIK. In CUbRIK, computer scientists, engineers, interface designers, historians and psychologists from 15 partnering organizations are working together to improve the quality of multimedia search. CUbRIK is built on the idea that the quality of multimedia search can be drastically improved when humans and machines work together. Some tasks, like the identification of faces and pictures, are very easy for humans, but incredibly difficult for machines. Vice versa, we can trust machines to conduct tasks which would be too time-consuming and tiring for humans. Within CUbRIK we are working on two demo applications, one in the domain of fashion, the other in the domain of the history of European integration. In this video we will focus on the latter. The design of CUbRIK was shaped by a user pull and technology push. This means that we use cutting-edge achievements in technology to fulfill the needs of users. At the same time, technology offers new ways to interact with data, in our case digitized historical sources, which simply creates new users.
This is an interesting time for scholars in the humanities and in history in particular. More and more sources are available in digital format. One of CUbRIK's partners, the Centre Virtuel de la Connaissance sur l'Europe, or CVCE, holds large collections of digitized photos and documents concerned with the history of European integration. Collections of digital sources like these offer new opportunities for historians. Scholars can not only retrieve individual documents, but can also rely on machines to group related documents and to extract higher-level information from them. At this stage of the project, the History of Europe app relies on the interaction between a group of click workers, historians and machines to detect faces in 3,000 photographs and to determine the identities of those in the photos. In the near future, this collection will be expanded with more photographs and additional text documents.
So how does CUbRIK work? Highlighted in red on this chart are the steps associated with content analysis and enrichment. The History of Europe app is based on text indexation, which contains the extraction of entities from the CVCE collections and the verification of these entities by humans. Once the entities are collected and verified, they are entered into Entitypedia, or central data repository. At the same time, images in the CVCE collection are first checked for their copyright status, provenance and license status. In a second step, metadata is extracted and faces are detected. As mentioned before, we rely on both machines and a crowd of click workers to complete this task and for the identification of individuals in the photographs. The information of who appears on a photograph with whom, as well as information on co-occurrences of actors and documents, is fed into the social graph component. Based on the D3 visualization environment, the social graph provides visual access to the collections and offers a higher level view on relations between the different sources. The social graph is also the access point for users who explore the collection through keyword searches. We will illustrate this feature in a moment. In order to be meaningful for end users, we need to be able to recreate the context of the social networks we show. But we go one step further and provide users with additional context by showing them the primary sources which constitute the social graph together with related documents which are of likely relevance for the research as well. Let's take a closer look at what happens when things don't work out as expected. Imagine that we get a photo in which the machine identifies Romano Prodi, albeit with a low confidence score. Cases like these are handled by a conflict management component which forwards the case to the conflict resolution task store, which in turn interacts with the CUbRIK app for conflict resolution. CUbRIK offers three ways to resolve cases like this. The photo can be forwarded to a game with a purpose designed by one of our colleagues from the group. It can become an identification task for the crowd, or it become a Q&A. Input from humans is essential and unavoidable in cases like this. Detecting faces and images and associating them with names is particularly hard for machines for a number of reasons. First, photography has changed drastically over the last 7 decades, resulting in different resolutions and colors. Secondly, not all photos are straightforward portrait photos. Many show people from an angle or in the shadows. And finally, our machines need to deal with age. People's faces change over time. Humans are particularly good at handling these problems, which is why we make use of a group of click workers who receive payment via the service Microtask. But the skills of an anonymous crowd are limited as well, especially when it comes to identifying individuals of little international prominence. In these cases, we rely on a crowd of trained historians or expert users. Based on their experience as researchers in the field, they are able to identify even less well-known individuals and use their context knowledge to make inference with further aid their decision-making processes. For this group, however, we needed to develop new incentives to participate and contribute to this project. In this case, we trust in their interest as scholars to help build a platform which will be of use to them and their peers. Examples like StackOverflow.com, a website which offers questions and answers for programmers, shows that individuals are willing to dedicate time and effort into helping others, not least motivated by the reputation they grow through their engagement. The History of Europe app makes use of the same dynamics and seeks to grow a community of users which will help to further expand and improve the system as a whole. Let's take a look how this works by moving over to the current demo of the History of Europe app. This is a homepage of the History of Europe application. Every researcher can have his profile, where he can access his documents and his personal account. You can see the available collections that are available for the researcher. You see an overview about the different research tools that we have. So the text-based search, the social graph exploration, the document annotation, and the research inquiries. Here at the bottom you see some of the research inquiries where other researchers ask for the verification of certain kind of information or for the provision of this information. Okay, let's explore the existing collection of the CVC. The first thing we see is a timeline on the top, which gives us an overview about the distribution of the images in time. Then we have some statistical information. So this collection has about 873 pictures in there. We have a certain number of reference portraits for the individuals. We have an overview about the automatic detection in there, and we also see an overview about the different crowd operations that were done. And we have about more than 100 faces that were added by the crowd. Let's pick the picture of Gorbachev and Kohl here. This is the annotation view. So here you see the results of the face identification and face recognition processes. With this little switch I can turn off the crowd filtering, and as you will notice, so this was what came out of the algorithm itself. And so here we have a false positive, a face where there's no face, and if I turn this on again, this is how it looks like after the crowd filtered the image. When you hover above a face or above a bounding box, you will see the currently associated identity to this face. We can also click on this identity, scroll down a bit, and see, okay, this is in green, we have the identity that is currently associated. Underneath, there are different kind of identities that were provided by the algorithm, but researchers can also provide their own identities if they think, no, this might be actually somebody else. We also integrated a kind of way for discussing these kind of results in the terms of the explanation field. Additionally, we have the ability to add faces in here. So for example, if we have an interesting person here in the background where we think that could be an interesting character, I can mark the left eye, the right eye, the nose, and the mouth. And the image will be added. After we marked the face of a person in the image and the face identification process is started, a new message is sent out to verify the identity of the person. Here this message is sent out to our community of users on Twitter. And we sent the request, can you help us to identify this person on CrowdSearcher? If I open the link, I arrive on the CrowdSearcher platform, and I can provide identities about the person here in the red bounding box. Okay, let's switch over to the Explorer to show you how the exploration of content works. Based on the co-occurrence of persons, we generated this network of relationships. So when you zoom out a bit, you see the different relations between persons, and whenever persons are connected, then here you see the persons they are connected with. Here we can show the link weight. If we turn this off, then every link is equal, no matter how many different documents connect them together. When I click on a specific person, I switch to the ego graph view. So the ego graph offers on the right hand side an information about this person. The first two phrases from the Wikipedia description of the person, where I can also read more. Here I have the date and birth of that person and relationships of that person, according to our sources. Another interesting thing is that if you scroll down, you see the actual sources in here. And when I hover over the image, you see that the persons which co-appear are highlighted in the network. Of course, I can also open the images and have a closer look. I can switch to the annotation if I think, oh, there's somebody missing, or I would like to correct an annotation. Besides the images, the content is also extended through other links and information that we found. Here we have generic information coming from the Wikipedia, but we also have different documents from the collection of the CVCE which relate to the specific person. I can also select that I'm only interested in a certain language. So, for example, if I say I only want to have German documents, then you see that the search is limited to German documents. Okay, let's switch back to the overview graph. Besides the ego graph, I can also switch to a connection graph, and in this case it's not a single person that is highlighted, but it's two persons, and so I see all the sources where these people appear in together, and similar I see all the documents where the two persons are mentioned together. So much about the history of Europe. We hope our little demonstration was interesting for you, and we're looking forward to your questions. But now, let's continue with the discussion.
So how will this app be useful for its intended users, historians, laymen interested in history, and journalists? Something that sets the History of Europe app apart from other digital research tools is its capacity to deal with ambivalence and multiple truths in an interactive fashion through the community interactive features. No higher level data visualization is useful unless we know the premises on which it builds, the information it selects, and the primary sources which constitute it. This is why the History of Europe app is built to allow immediate access to any primary source which it processes. As an advanced feature, it will also reveal related sources which are likely to be relevant for the respective researchers. Let's recapitulate. CUbRIK's History of Europe app develops solutions for the problems associated with bridging the gap between technology and humanities research. Many of them apply to all related digital humanities projects. How do we gather requirements for tools that have not been developed yet? How do we engage crowds to help us build and improve our system? How do we handle the manifold copyright issues which we face, particularly in contemporary history? Looking into the future, we have clear goals for the further development of our application. In order to deliver meaningful results for researchers, we need to include additional data sources. Many of our users are not frequent users of technologies of this kind. We therefore face the challenge to develop a user interface that is comprehensible to non-experts and invites them to explore the project's advanced features. And finally, the challenge persists to continuously optimize the interaction between all of CUbRIK's components.